So today we're going to take a little ride out to a neighborhood that has almost no reputation. I mean, I've known people that have lived here for 10 or 15 years, and when I mention Disston Heights, they have no idea where it is. But that's a mistake because there's some really, really nice houses out there. It's affordable and it's got a great location. So let's take a ride out to Disston Heights. Hey guys, this is Steve Reynolds. I am a realtor here in downtown St. Petersburg, Florida. If you are thinking about moving to St. Pete or anywhere in Pinellas County, shoot me a text, give me a call, send me an email, let me know what you need. Love to help you out. This channel is all about exploring the neighborhoods in and around St. Petersburg, Florida, all the way out to the Gulf beaches. And today we're going to take a little ride out to a neighborhood called Disston Heights. As I mentioned, it doesn't have much of a reputation. It's not a good or bad thing. It's just not one of the sort of trendy neighborhoods here in St. Pete. It was built sometime in the late 40s, early 50s. A lot of smaller two-bedroom, two-bedroom, one-bath block construction homes. But it's undergone a renaissance over the last few years, obviously as people have gotten priced out of some of those more trendy neighborhoods like Kenwood and Old Northeast and Crescent Lake and all those places. And it's a pretty great neighborhood if you ask me. It's got low crime. It is sort of dead center in St. Pete. You can get anywhere within a reasonable amount of time. You know, the only downside is it's not like a super walkable neighborhood. You're not going to walk to coffee shops in town and stuff. So we're going to take a ride out and check out a couple of houses there and see what we find. So let's take a ride. It is a beautiful day, first of all. I don't know how much of this blue sky we're going to pick up on the camera, but this is pretty typical Florida winter weather here. It's a little cold for my taste, probably in the, I don't know, low 60s maybe. I'm wearing gloves, which I don't usually have to do. This guy is not going to get in the spot. Well, you know what? We're going to sit here and watch to see if he can do it because he's got no space on either side. There's no way. There's no way he's getting in there. That's impressive, man. He did it. He had about 6 inches on either side, and he somehow got in there. So anyway, we're riding along the waterfront here. It's about a 10 or 15 minute ride to Disston Heights, where we're going to check out two houses. One with a pool, one was renovated a while ago, and the other one is newly renovated. So we're going to see what we can find. So as we kind of exit downtown, I just want to give you some sense of where Disston Heights is. And it's bordered on the north at 38th and to the south at 22nd Ave. And then basically 34th Street on the east and 49th Street on the west. Now, that's a lot of numbers. It may not make sense to you, but if you live in a city that has that's set up as a grid with numbered streets, it's really helpful. So if you're thinking about moving down here, you know, start to get familiar with how the streets work, because when you get an address, you're going to immediately know the neighborhood. So it is really helpful to know how the grid works. So 30th to 38th, that means that at its furthest point out, we're just 38 blocks from downtown. That gives you some sense of how far from downtown Disston Heights is. So we just kind of entered the main part of Disston Heights, and if you take a look at the houses, you'll see, I mean, they're almost all of the same elevation. The front of the houses are almost all the same. And of course, as soon as I say that, there's one that's entirely different. That house has been redone completely. But they were mostly built as these two-bedroom, one-bath, one-car garage houses. And you'll also notice, hopefully you can pick it up on the camera on that house right there. There was a breezeway, an open breezeway between the garage and the house, and I don't know if 100% of them have been enclosed, but I have never seen one that wasn't enclosed. So we're just going to cruise down the street, and you can see what I'm talking about. One car garage, and you see that big sort of picture window. That was a breezeway these were mostly, and that one was nicely renovated, a little modernized. That one nicely done too. Been a lot of renovation in here because a few years ago you could get a house like super cheap before really anyone cared about this neighborhood, but now it's starting to pick up a little steam because it's the yards are big, the houses are relatively small, but they're on big lots, so you can add on to them, which a lot of people have off the back of the house added master suites and another bathroom and turned a 2-1 into a 3-2. There's plenty of land to do that, so you're seeing that kind of renovation here, which is nice. And you can see there's some pride of ownership here too. The yards are well kept, but again, look at the architecture on these houses here. They don't look the same at first glance, so I'm not saying this is all cookie cutter, sort of subdivision kind of thing, but most of the houses are one-car garage with that enclosed breezeway, and then people have kind of customized them from there. All right, so we're approaching the first house for sale. I think I see it up here with the storage in front. Yeah, there it is right there. I don't know if we can get... We're not going to get a good angle on this house because it's got a big storage thing in front of it, but that's it right there, behind that storage bin. So we'll check out the pictures online, but this is listed at $425,000. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,272 square feet, which puts it at about $334 a square foot, which is, pretty average for the neighborhood here. You're not going to be able to tell, but I can see that it's got some solar panels on the roof. And one of the things to always double check on when you see solar panels is a lot of times those are financed. And then when the house is sold, the sort of debt or the balance is going to be transferred to the owner. So if you see solar on a roof of a house for sale that you're interested in, make sure you find out if there's any balance or if they're paid off. Usually the listing agent will make a note in the listing description that the panels are paid off if they are, because that's a selling point. Obviously, it's going to lower your electric bill quite a bit. So this house was built in 1952. It's got some nice upgrades. Impact windows 2023. The roof is only 4 years old. The AC is 5 years old. A tankless water heater. It says we're in this St. Pete High School District, which is A-rated. Just going through the photos real quick, there's a nice kitchen with granite. It's a decent sized living area, or excuse me, a decent sized dining area. That living area is a little smallish, but the house is not huge. Nice sized primary bath, a good front porch there, nice fenced backyard. The lot is narrow. It's only 45 wide, but it's 127 deep. Which is nice, so you got a little bit of privacy, and it's a nice kind of treed lot, so you get some nice shade. And then checking out the history, we see that in 2018 it sold for $197,000. Pre-pandemic pricing, obviously, it was a different world, but then it sold in March 2021 at $315,000. Now the only update that I see here is, I could be wrong, but from the dates, the only update I see is the plumbing. And in fact, just looking at the old listing description, here on homes.com, it's almost word for word the same as the 2021 listing description, except for the mention of the windows and the plumbing. Now, just to mention that impact windows are not a small upgrade. They are very, very expensive. And as a home buyer in a state that's seen its share of hurricanes, this is a big selling feature. So it's really nice. And if you're out looking at houses, the easiest way to tell if it has impact windows is just to knock on the window. If it has even the slightest rattle, it's probably not impact. But when you sort of wrap your knuckles on it, it's almost like tapping on a wall. That's how thick and heavy that glass is. Then they're probably impact windows. So and there's not a flood zone here either. So it's not a recently renovated house, but it is pretty nice, especially at $334 a square foot. So let's just go through the positives. I would say lot size, definitely. You got a nice deep lot, even though it's a little bit narrow. those impact windows. This is a solid block construction home. It's got nice newer floors, newer roof. The negatives for some people, of course, there's no garage here and no ability to add one on because the lot's too narrow. And also, this is probably going to turn some people off. The master in the back looks like it's an addition, and oftentimes when they do additions, they don't necessarily tie it into the existing roof. They just go lower. So these older houses did not have 9 and 10 foot ceilings anyway. So I really can't tell for sure, but it looks like it might have a little bit lower ceilings in there. Obviously not a big deal for a lot of people, but other people might feel like they want minimum of 8 or 9 foot. It might have 8 foot ceilings, but maybe you want a minimum of 9 foot ceilings. So that's house number 1. I would say it's priced reasonably close to what you would expect for the market. Now, we are on the other side of 49th Street, which I don't consider Disston Heights proper, but it is still technically Disston Heights. So drop a comment, let me know what you think about that house at that price. I think it's priced relatively close to the market. We may see another price drop before it attracts some buyers, we'll see. But let's take a look at, before we get out to 49th, that's a public supermarket right there. So that is where you would shop. I mean, you're literally across the street. There's not a ton of retail around here. In fact, there's very little. This is not a walkable neighborhood. I mean, it's walkable. There's sidewalks and stuff, but it's not, you're not going to walk to coffee shops. But there's a little bit of shopping in there. So let's check out that second house and see what we think of that one. All right, here's house number 2. I'm gonna maybe do a little bit of a U-turn here so we can get a better angle at it. So bear with me. So this is 4649 18th Avenue North. Let me spin this camera around here so we can get a better look at it. Now this one is a 3.2, and it looks much smaller from the outside, 1,550 square feet. It's got a beautiful caged pool back there, priced at $341 a square foot, so not that far off of the house that we just saw, which was at $334 a square foot with no pool. This house just had a $51,000 price drop, $51,000. And the pool was recently renovated. There's new floors, paint. It says electrical, plumbing, and water heater, and they don't say the extent to which those things were upgraded. I don't know if it's a full panel upgrade or could be just some new outlets, GFCI, some new wiring, who knows. So this house started at $579,000 in September, and it's now down to $529,000. And the history shows it last sold for $350,000 in April, and it was renovated. So, we take a look at the photos. I mean, it's really nice inside, super clean, new kitchen. It's got that big, deep pool. It says 9-foot pool, which you don't see very often anymore. But, I would argue that this is an example of a little bit of a missed opportunity. Because you look, there's no landscaping in this front yard. If you drove by this house, I would argue you probably wouldn't think that it was just recently renovated. I'm going to go around to the side here because this is on a corner lot. And I don't know what the history of the person who bought this, and I'm not being overly critical. I'm just saying that, let me see if I can spin this around because I want you to see that fence right there. Hopefully you can get a look at that. There's some missing slats to the fence. I mean, I deal with buyers all the time when we pull up to a house like this and you see for more than $500,000 and you see missing slats on a fence, it doesn't send the best signal to somebody, but looking at the photos, it's a beautiful kitchen. I mean, it looks like a brand new custom house inside, nice bath tile work. good sized living area, nice touches with the vanities. I mean, look at those vanities in the bathroom. It's nice. The bedrooms look to be a decent size. So the interior pictures look great. Again, and investors are famous for this. And I know it's a difficult business to be in. Obviously, you buy a house, you put a ton of money and time into something. And then, as often as not, you're over budget and over time because you're dealing with subcontractors and all that stuff. And the thing that gets left out, is the curb appeal. I mean, I don't get it, because curb appeal is what, it's not what sells a house. But if you're scrolling Zillow, and almost everybody that looks for a house now is using one of the 3 or 4 big sites. And at least here, our multiple listing service, the first picture has to be an exterior photo unless it's a condo. So you have an exterior photo that is not a scroll stopper for people. I mean, I don't care what anybody says. If your budget is $529 or $550 or whatever, and you're scrolling and you see a house that it looks like, it's sort of, the yard is not nice. There's no landscaping. The fence, it's just not a scroll stopper. And I honestly don't understand why investors don't hold back a few $1,000s to get that front looking nice enough so that when that first picture pops up on Zillow, that people stop and then they can look at the work that you've done to the inside. So, I think that's why it could have been overpriced anyway. I don't know. I'm just saying that. I think these are missed opportunities on the investor's part to not hold back money to make the outside look nicer, because the interior is beautiful. On the positive side, it's a nice, big, deep pool. We're, again, in an area, there's no flood insurance. We're, 12, 15 minutes from downtown. I mean, beach is 25, 30 minutes away. Airport, 35 minutes away. I mean, this is a really, really good location. It's a good neighborhood. As I mentioned earlier, I think the crime stats here are below the national average. They're almost 3s all the way down the board, with the exception of one category, which is, right at the national average. I mean, this is a good neighborhood to be in. So I don't know. I just looking at here's what I would say. If you saw the pictures, if someone just showed you the pictures on the inside and then showed you the picture of the outside of this house, you would think you were looking at 2 different houses. And again, not to be too critical, but $3,000 in landscaping, I think would have changed a lot for this house. Especially at this price point. This is not a bargain house. This is $529,000, and the pool alone is not going to sell it. So, let me know what you think. I think at this price, obviously, as most investors are probably going to say, let the new owner spend the $3,000 or $4,000 or whatever on landscaping if they want to fix it up. We did all the hard stuff, and that is true. But again, the point of a Zillow listing or a Homes.com listing is to make that front picture make you stop in your tracks and say, I got to go see this house. And I think that's probably not happening so much here. So drop a comment. Let me know. Do you think this house is worth it? It's a lot of square footage. $341 a square foot is, I'll be honest with you, is pretty cheap. It is pretty cheap. A little bit below average for this neighborhood, especially for a pool house, and a few $1,000s in landscaping. I think you got yourself a real gem here. So let me know what you think. Drop a comment. I'm going to cruise down the street to see if there's any other activity. I mean, the street is nice and clean. These are all nice houses. Well, I hope you enjoyed our little ride out to the Disston Heights neighborhood. I will tell you, I'd very much encourage you, if you're thinking about moving to St. Pete, take a look in this neighborhood. There's a good inventory of houses for sale right now. I think there's 74 houses. They range anywhere from, a low of 250,000 up to a little bit over $1 million. But by and large, you're going to be in that 4 to 550 range. And in the 3s per square foot, so around $340 a square foot. So you're getting good value, good house for the money. You're not going to be worried about the flood insurance situation. And then you have some opportunities here to buy a house, maybe that's a little bit dated, but these are solid block houses, to to buy a house that might need a little bit of work. So you could build up a little bit of sweat equity, which is always nice. So it's something to think about. And as always, I am a realtor here in downtown St. Pete. So if you're thinking about moving to St. Petersburg, Florida, give me a call, shoot me a text, send me an email, let me know what you're looking for. I'd love to help you out. I cover all of Pinellas County, from St. Pete out to Clearwater, all the way out to the beaches. So let me know what you thought of the houses we saw today as well. Drop a comment below, and also hit the subscribe button so you can get notified of new videos. And with that, I will see you guys next time.